The red wine? Anyone else? Red wine? I'll keep the red wine here. It's the right time, right time. So your drink is coming.
Oh, it's monopolizing speed.
There we go. Yeah, sure. This is the right thing.
Oh, wonderful. Excellent. Extra drama.
We care our expertise. So, yeah, we're about to start. Thank you, first of all, thank you for coming, and thanks to our experts who kindly agreed to participate in that event. This is just a community event, from community to community. So thank you everyone for joining us. I had to say thank you for our sponsors who just allow us to rent the venue and have a first free drink. And this is not the way we making money. Our company, what I'm working for, and it just happens that I'm working for that company. I've actually joined some before joining them. The company, yeah. I started to participate in the community events before actually joining. Our only sponsor us for now, but we're actually looking for another sponsors to join. So if you know somebody who would like to, support our community, then you're welcome to bring them on board. Anyway, let's stop talking about these type of things. Let me pass to Gary, who would introduce our guests. This is Gary, and Gary actually won PL Sequel Challenge just 6 weeks ago, and it's really challenging stuff, right? He's a really smart guy.
No, I don't often get flattered like that. Do I need the microphone? No. Okay.
Just
right.
make sure that it's working.
That's okay.
It's too complicated.
No, this one's technology.
Gary, I prepared one for you.
Okay, right. I'll start at the far end. McDonald over from Perth. If you ever seen him present, I saw him present in Melbourne once. He went through a slides deck of about 120 slides in less than an hour. So he's a remarkable presenter. So I think he's still got another in-sync presentation tomorrow.
One tomorrow, yes.
One tomorrow. So if you haven't seen him, definitely go and see him. Apart from that, he's written a book on PLSQL, which I've got at home, and he's just contributed a chapter to a brand new book on PLSQL, which is, we've got a prize copy sitting over there, and that's on my wish list, so I'm hoping to win that one. Okay. Next we've got Craig, who, again, Oracle performance expert. Go through my list. Yes, Oracle Performance Firefighting is his book, and does training courses, technical papers, blogs, you name it, he does it. So, from Western Australia again, Chris Muir works for Sage in the ADF, JDeveloper, middleware space, and all those developer tools. I know a lot of you are probably DBAs and don't care about developers, but he's a developer guy.
While you're spitting on it, avoid me.
Yes, and the man you are avoiding is Tim Hall, the man behind the Oracle Base website, which I'm sure everyone here has visited at some point. I know it's one that I recommend a lot when I'm answering forum questions. It's, have you looked at this article by Tim? So, another man in the know. Guy is based in Melbourne and he works for Quest, who make Toad, and I'm not sure how many of you are Toad users, but very good software if you can afford it. If you can't, they do various plugins and freeware.
You can use the freeware version.
You can use the freeware version. Yeah.
Used on what?
Okay, moving on. Marcelle, who's the expert in storing multimedia objects in the database. She's presented at Sydney Oracle Meetup before, and there's a couple of webinars from Old Folks she's done recently. So look out for them. I've got links to them because I registered to watch them. The next man needs no introduction. The Tom from Ask Tom. Everyone here will, again, have visited that website on numerous occasions. Plus, the entire bookshelf of books he's written and turns out on a regular basis, all of which are worth buying and giving to all those people who don't actually understand what Oracle is and how they should use it. And finally, the man on the end, Mr. Index himself, Richard Foote. Also up from Canberra, another one of our relatively local Oracle aces. They're all aces or ace directors. But yes, he is the man who knows everything there is to know about indexes and a lot more.
And David Bowie.
And he knows a lot about David Bowie, yes. If you read his blog posts, you'll see David Bowie turning up in them on a regular basis.
Thank you, Gary, and I believe what we've got right people for the topic, for the job we have tonight, right? And let's give them a big applause for supporting us. Thank you guys once again. Well, basically, I've distributed the session format across our experts, and basically what we are aiming to do today, we divided our session, our hour in 3 sections. One section where we will start with, we do have each expert answering the same questions. Eight experts give us 3 minutes answer to the questions we prepared. This next section contains of all your questions, what you ask it through the social media. We don't have names attached to each of the questions, so it's hidden from the experts. But the format here, each expert will ask to choose one question from the list and answer it. Once again, we do have a timekeeper here, Andrew. He's one big guy, so he's got good authority to stop any expert. Kidding. But just for keeping the session going, we would like to put that limit, right? 3 minutes per answer. On the second section, we allow other experts to contribute to the answer, right? If you do like the question or would like to put an argument in place, you're free to do that in next 2 minutes. So Andrew will tell us what time it is. So each expert choose one question from the list. And the third section, we give you work to ask any questions you have, any questions which haven't been answered, and let experts to respond to your question. So this is our format today. I hope I didn't miss anything. So let's start it going. Okay. One thing what I would like to propose to answering the first and second section questions is to start with in alphabetical order, and the second section will start reverse alphabetical order.
That means the person in the middle goes in the middle.
So you will get to know when you need to start. So Chris Moore. It's your turn first to answer the question of first section, and I will ask you the question. How did you start your career, IT career, any memories? And what are the most important things, what you think made you an expert? So any characteristics, events, projects, or anything like that?
Summed up in 3 minutes. 15 years is a hard thing to summarise, but I started out as a C and C++ coder many years ago, and I worked on a train system in Western Australia. 4 years of programming, and the system never went live. I think I've learned my most ever from that actual project. Never touched C again, but then I've been formed, report, designer person, a database person, SQL, PL/SQL, and I got really bored with that, so then I ended up working with JDeveloper, and now I'm a middleware person. So over a number of years, I've sort of wrapped around all the Oracle Cortex development type tools. It's funny about being asked about if you're an expert. I don't really consider myself an expert, but in terms of being an expert, probably the most important thing is I just really want to go and talk to people like you. I get really bored of just sitting at home and reading books and so on. I want to go and talk to guys like you and say, well, what are you doing at your site? oh, I didn't know that. And that's how maybe I'm an expert, because the fact is I'll go and talk to people and maybe evangelise, well, have you thought about this? So really, we're all experts, right? We're all here today. That's what makes people experts, because they're willing to go out and ask questions. So.
All right, cool. Yeah. And if you don't spend all 3 minutes, don't worry. We do have enough questions. Right, Connor, would you like to?
In terms of starting IT, when I was at primary school, they had a maths competition every week in the classroom. And if you got the top marks from time to time in that little competition, you got to spend a precious hour with the school computer, which was an Apple II. And no one knew how it worked. You just got to, write a little basic program, line 10, print, I am cool, line 20, go to 10. Yeah, and that was what I was doing. And so that was how I got started in IT. It was winning the occasional maths competition. I thought, I want to do this for the rest of my life. And I'm so lucky to do that, because I know people that have spent decades working out what they want to do in their life. So that was one. Starting with Oracle, it was the cliche. I was working as a COBOL programmer, and there's that sort of cliche we say, you need to document things in case you get hit by a bus. It's the Australianism we use. The Oracle DBA contractor who sat next to me crossed St George's Terrace in Perth one day and got hit by a bus. and my project manager said, you sit closest to Peter, you're the Oracle.
Did you push him?
No, but how I long for him to still be alive. But that's how I got started in Oracle, and that was in the late 80s. In terms of becoming an expert, and I don't particularly like the term, but the two things for me is fun and humility. And the fun one I often paraphrase the story that when I first went to university, our lecturer, I can't even remember what the unit was, I think it was in maths or physics or something, and the lecturer said something like, and you see this happens when we do this, and isn't this really cool? And we all laughed as students, because he was this geek getting enjoyment out of something in physics or something deep grade, and we all laughed at him. And he stopped the lecture, and he said, what is wrong with you people? He said, you chose to do this unit. You chose to do this subject, and yet you don't find it cool. You find it funny when someone finds the subject they've chosen cool. And it was a real light bulb moment for me. I suddenly realised that it's much more important to choose the things you like doing and to get a real buzz out of them. And if you can do that, then that's a great place to be. And I get a buzz out of work at Oracle. I love going to work. Sometimes I love bitching about work, but I love doing it. I love going to work. It's great. So fun is the important one. The next one is humility. Working in Perth is fairly remote, and I, after working with Oracle for about 5-6 years, I thought I was the dog's ball. I thought I knew everything there was to know. And then a guy named Dave Ensor came out, who was an Oracle expert for many, many years. He did a talk on the 20 most common mistakes Oracle people do at their shop. And I ticked off 18 of them. And 2 of them I got right, but the other 18, and I suddenly realised that, you can't get a big ego, right? It's important to have a bit of humility in your profession. And if you have humility, then all you'll do is always just focus and try to learn more, right? And that's what we're doing. And have fun.
So Greg, your turn.
So we go through these three questions here.
2 first questions. Yep.
How do I start? Well, honestly, I had the telephones in my school's IT center. That's how I started. That's crazy. But I started with Oracle, so it was really where I started. I was a form SQL developer. That's how I started. But my code was really buggy. I almost lost my first job as a developer because my code was so buggy. And then I joined a group that all we did was firefighting day in and day out. So I guess that kind of leads to the second question: how do I become an expert? All that. For me, it was because I did the same kind of things over and over and over again, and that's what I still do. My breadth of knowledge is actually really, really thin right now. I don't even know how our man works. It's all on Davis internals and performance capacity. Right? So for me, it was doing the same things over and over again, and just the love of solving problems. Okay? And waking up, I'm so excited about what I do. So that's short answer. It could be a long one.
Thank you.
Yes.
turn.
Okay, can I just ask a question first? Craig, do you know what the dog's faults are? And do you think you are one? Someone might have to explain it.
We've got a whiteboard?
It's a technical term. I don't think it translates well into American. So I started my IT, the first time I used a computer was in about 1980. Like Craig, who didn't admit to this, we used punch cards, and I was doing it in uni. I used SPSS, which is still around, an IBM product, for statistical analysis. And when I graduated, I couldn't get a job in psychology, which was the degree I was doing, so I sort of fell into the federal government because there was no one knew how to use computers in those days, and there weren't enough graduates. And I just sort of slid in sideways like that. And eventually, I was working for the Department of Social Security, they got Oracle, I learned Oracle, and so on it went. In terms of if I had any expertise that was above what other people had in those days, I'd say there's probably only kind of one or two things that I did that other people wouldn't do. And one was, because I didn't know anything, I hadn't been trained, I tended to do a lot of experimentation, and I used a lot of sort of scientific methods that I've been trained in, and statistical techniques that sort of give me a tendency to experiment. And that experimentation, I think, is a pretty important skill. If you can work out how to do a properly constructed experiment, you can learn things other people don't know, and that gives you a bit of an edge. And the other thing is I was on the internet very early. Prior to the World Wide Web, I had Usenet, other people didn't. So I'd like to be doing the equivalent of Googling when no one else was, and that sort of makes you look a bit smart too. So that's my answer.
Cool. Marcelle, your turn.
My first exposure to computing was a Tandy Model 3, if anyone can remember that, and I learned basic and then assembler on that. But in terms of how I actually learnt things and then what I did, I'll just do a bit of the story. I was actually involved with the Australian Computer Society as a student member, and no one here would actually know this one. But I always like to be controversial, and I still am controversial at the moment. And in that time, this is 1985, I actually wrote a paper as part of it that I made them publish, and it basically involved the idea that if you don't know how to write a sort routine, you're useless as a developer. And that was in the 1980s, where they basically thought, okay, you don't need to know how to write anything because SQL was basically in place at all. And I was actually trying to challenge them at that point in time, saying, no, that was actually wrong. Now, I'm a DBA and a developer, and I keep insisting on that, and no one likes that because I'm actually in both camps. And I get to see a very unique perspective on the world because of that. And so I do actual development, a lot of PL SQL stuff. I've been a DBA for 20 years, and I do work on from Linux, Solaris, and a lot on Windows. And I was actually brought up on SQL Forms 2.0 on MVS and VMS. So I've been exposed a lot to it. And so my thing that I feel that's important to becoming an expert is variety, a huge amount of it. And I actually did a stint working for Oracle for about 4 years, and I was exposed to most government departments in Canberra. So I actually was hands-on at each different site, hearing their problems, trying to solve them time after time. And even today in the work that I'm doing in the multimedia field, with museums and everywhere else, I'm constantly being challenged, and I'm having to come up with solutions to problems and improve the software that I develop because of that. I'm doing a huge amount of work in PL SQL because of that, and I'm learning a lot. So I would say to become an expert involves a lot of variety and moving around and not just staying in the one position, which is going to keep you stifled in that.
Thank you. Richard.
Oh, okay. I'm going to make, look, we're all friends, so I'm going to make a couple of confessions, okay, because we're all friends here. First of all, how I got involved in computing, my dad forced me to go into computing. I did not want to be in computing at all. I wanted to be in forestry. I wanted to go out and look at trees and look at plants and things. And Dad said, you're an idiot, you're going to make no money out of that, you're going to do computing. So I went to university, did first unit of computing. My first assignment, had to write a program using COBOL. Had to compile it. It came back with one compilation error. I thought, you beauty, this is fantastic. It said you had spelled identification division incorrectly. I fixed that and I got 50 compilation errors. So I thought, fuck this, I hate computing. But I stayed at it, and after the first year I wanted to quit, and Dad kind of said, he was a very forceful character, should meet my dad one day. I said, look, the second year is easier. So I did the second year, and I hated it even more. And Dad said, well, you're 2/3 away, 3 months, you'll finish it now. So I kind of resigned myself that computing was kind of it. And I really, it wasn't until I actually got my first job, which degree gave me. And I thought, shit, you pay me how much? And I thought, actually, this is not actually such a bad thing after all. So that's kind of how I got involved. And the other confession is Oracle, total accident. I spent my first 10 years, I was actually an expert in DB2. I knew nothing about Oracle whatsoever. First year I just was purely IBM, purely DB2, and where I was working they were chucking out redundancies. I thought, I'll grab one of those and make a whole heap of money, and that's fantastic. So yes please, and I started searching for jobs. And Oracle approached me because they kind of knew me because of my training and everything, and Oracle offered me this job. And then, out of 169 people, 13 did not get a redundancy, and I was one of the lucky 13. I thought, bloody hell. So I said to Oracle, look, thank you very much. I'm 3 months away from long service leave. I can't take the job. Thank you very much. You know, not to be. And Oracle said, well, how about we give you the job in 3 months' time? So I thought, all right, why not? So I joined Oracle basically because I just happened to be looking for a job at that time. So me being in Oracle was purely accidental. So, that's my confession. Now, in terms of being an expert, well, it's actually interesting. Working in Oracle, you think being an Oracle, you'd be an expert being an Oracle, but in Oracle, you're just anybody else. Like, there's nothing magical being in Oracle. You don't have access to all the code and stuff, you're just an employee. So I learned all the things totally incorrectly, as most people did, you know. I tried to put everything in one extent. I tried to basically, I sucked up everything because we were teaching all that. And then after a while, it occurred to me that some of this stuff was actually incorrect. And it was only by sort of actually experimenting and researching and reading cleverly, like that, I basically discovered that actually, this is not how things work. And that's my 3 minutes. And I'll answer question number 7, which will go into some other things as well.
Right, Tom, your turn. I believe. Team. Tom.
It's an interesting correlating sequence. It's about Tom, then Tim.
It depends whether it's Tom or Thomas with the H.
It's up to Thomas then. So H comes before I.
See, they can't write a story. So you're last.
So, I got started in IT very much in the same way Richard did, totally by accident. I went to college. I had a similar experience. I was a comp sci major, and they gave me this assignment to do something in Pascal, and they were using these words like arrays and indices and subscripts and all these fancy terms, and I didn't understand any of it, so I dropped out. I got out of comp sci after I got my first program back, which had more than 50 compilation errors. We got a big 0 on it, and I said, this stuff is stupid, I don't get it. And so I became a math major instead, which a lot of people go, wait, you dropped out of comp sci and you went into abstract algebra. So which one of those is harder? So I did the abstract algebra stuff, and when I graduated, I figured out I was basically suited to do no job on the planet. Right? So if you get a math degree, you can do 2 things basically. You can go back to school and get more math degrees, or you could go work for the NSA. That's our security folks, do encryption and stuff. And that wasn't for me, so I found an ad in the paper that said, programmer wanted, no experience required. I satisfied all of the requirements. So I went in and I got a job, and it was as a PL1 programmer in an IBM mainframe, writing applications that utilized anything from vSAN to DB2 to SQL DS to ISAM and so on the mainframe itself. And so I was a mainframe programmer for a couple of years, and then I found this C programming language. I got a copy of Coherent Unix and started playing with it on my own, taught myself that. And then some C programs came up at the contractor I was working with, and I started doing that. And that's when I started getting into this Oracle thing, because that's what we were using on the Open Systems platform. And I started playing around with it, but I was using SQL DS, DB2, Formix, Ingress, Sybase, you name it, many different databases. So I had a wide variety of experiences. And when I quit that job, I actually quit to go to another company. I just wanted to get away from the contract that I was working on. And and I quit that job to go to another company. And when I called up my Oracle contacts to tell them that I was leaving, they got in touch with me and said, oh, you should have told us you were thinking of leaving. We'd like to offer you a job. And so I came to Oracle quite by accident, just because I happened to have been looking for a job. And that was 18 years and 16 days ago. and I've been there ever since. And I think one of the things that's built my knowledge base, I haven't heard anyone yet say, I am an expert and I am proud of it. We've all sort of shied away from that word.
That's because I haven't had my turn yet.
But I'll come back to the rest of it because my 3 minutes of fame are up, and so turn it over to Tim.
I'm absolutely shitting myself. Right. How do I start with computing? ZX81. You may have heard of Clive Sinclair.
Yes.
I had one of those when I was a kid. Played around with it, decided I was going to dedicate my life to computers, and then promptly decided not to and got into biology. Biology degree, genetic engineering PhD. Then it was a choice of become a teacher or do something else. So while I was waiting to start teacher training, I applied for some random things. Got an interview with an IT company, and they said, do you know what Oracle is? And at the time we had teletext on Channel 4, had a big title saying Oracle on it, you know, like the teletext on TV. And so I said, oh yeah, it's that stuff on TV, isn't it? It's like teletext. And he went, no. So at the end of the interview, that I completely bollocks stuff, he just said, look, you're obviously not thick. So, because of doing a degree in PhD and stuff, but you're not really suited for the job, but we'll give you a go anyway. I worked for 4 months without getting paid. Then they decided to start paying me, but at that time I thought I was a god of Oracle, so I moved to another job that I was completely unqualified for, and it was either cry and leave or, you know, throw myself at it 100%. So that's what I did for a couple of years, and that was really why it was the pressure of that job that actually got me focusing on trying to learn stuff as quickly as possible before they found out I was useless. And that kind of, I tried not to let that momentum disappear, because as you get older, it's easier to just start thinking, oh, fuck it. You know, and I always try and keep that momentum. So, it's completely accidental I got into Oracle. In fact, my whole life has been completely accidental. It's an accident I'm an Oracle ace. It's an accident I'm here. And if anyone ever tries to tell you they had a life plan, they're probably lying and looking at things with rose-colored spectacles, because I have not got any plan for, ever. Expert, assuming you think you are one, probably the best thing that happened to me apart from that initial job where I was forced to sort of knuckle down. I find it quite easy to learn things because of the whole degree and PhD thing. It taught me to be self-sufficient. So that's a big bonus, even though I hated the PhD. I was too lazy to leave. And probably the next biggest factor is I started answering questions on dbasupport.com. And I remember the first time I answered a question, I just refreshed the page every sort of 2 seconds, and my heart was going like it is now, because I was thinking, someone's going to say you're talking shit. And I forced myself, because I was so scared, I forced myself to do it on a regular basis, and getting out there and putting yourself on the line is the thing that forces you to improve. Because when you've got, some of these guys came to my talk today, and as they walked in, I just thought, oh, bollocks. Because they're going to see all the flaws in everything I'm saying. But you've got to keep putting yourself out there, otherwise you won't improve.